From the beautiful Alathus building in downtown Russellville, we welcome you into the Spotlight presented by Alathus Realty. If you are in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today, 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. My name is Drew Brent, and today our guest is someone that I've known for a long time. He is the head coach of the Arkansas Tech men's football team. He is Kyle Shipp. The lead Wonderboy is here, Coach. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's been fun to be back.
Man, this has got to have been a whirlwind for you the last few years. I mean, you come in rather unexpectedly as the head coach, and then COVID hits. Kind of walk me through what your head coaching experience has been like over the last couple of years.
Well, I originally came here as offense coordinator. And the guy that I came with, Bo, he left to get out of coaching in kind of a weird time.
Sure.
And I got promoted to the head coach, and I think March the 5th was the day. And so that was very unexpected. We were starting spring ball, I think, basically 2 to 3 weeks from that point. That was a difficult time for our players because I became the third head coach in 2 months for them. Mm-hmm. And like any kid, it's wanting to build buy-in and things like that is very tough because they got to get it to go know someone else. And that was a struggle at first, but the guys handled it well. But during doing all that, having hired new staff and all that, and had the first season, which was a little rough at times, which we knew it would be just because we had a lot of youth and young guys playing. And just learning what we wanted as coaches and how we wanted our program to run and how we wanted our culture to be set is never easy. And so we had that and had a good recruiting class, had just started spring ball again, and things were looking really good. And then, boom, COVID hits. And then everybody had to go home. And,
right.
From that point, guys were able to kind of come back that next summer. We had some guys back in July, and everything was looking decent. And then things started getting a little bit more hairy from the cases side of things, and they decided to, from the conference side, to shut the season down of the 2020 season. And so we were able to at least practice some, lift weights and do those things, of course, with all the protocols that we had in place. And we had, of course, we had some guys get COVID at that time. Luckily, at that point, no one really got sick and had to go to the hospital, and then there weren't just crazy numbers for us. But we managed through that. We were able to practice a bunch in the spring, have some spring scrimmages, which we thought our guys at times looked pretty good at. Obviously, there's still a lot to fix, and I think any program in the country today, there's always things to fix.
Sure.
But we felt really good about coming out of the spring. And then right now, we're in summer 2, and we have almost 110 guys here right now.
Wow.
Which is the most that have ever been here in the summer at Arkansas Tech football in the history of the program. So our guys are really excited, obviously, about the season, to have football again. They're really bought in. Obviously, numbers are going up again, and so we're a little concerned about that. We're kind of going back to some of the old procedures that we had just from a safety protocol side of things. But our guys are handling it as well as they can. Of course, they're nervous, and looks like we are. But I do think we're still going to have a full season, and I feel like if we're healthy and our guys are doing what we expect them to do, that there'll be a lot of progress made.
You're walking through a strange time with COVID anyway. At the same time, you're trying to establish buy-in as a new head football coach, your first head coaching job at the D2 level. So how do you balance that? As you're trying to get this team behind you, rally the troops, so to speak, and then also maintain the safety and security of your players and staff. How do you manage it? How do you balance it?
Well, we all obviously go by your CDC standards and with what our administration asks us to do, as well as our athletic training staff, and those things help. And we do it. I want to have a really good staff that do a good job of communicating but building relationship with the players, and that helps a ton. When those guys believe in their position coaches and coordinators, that helps a ton. I have an open door policy, so kids understand, hey, at any point I can walk, if his door's open, I can walk in there and have a conversation about anything. They might not like the answer they get every time,
Sure.
but it's going to be a open conversation. And sometimes it's just a conversation we're joking around, laughing, and having a good time. That was something that in the previous years I don't think was happening, from what I've been told by many kids, that
Sure.
they felt like they couldn't walk in and just talk about life with their head coach, or talk about what's going on with them, or anything of that nature. And so I think that helps with changing your culture when kids believe in you and kids know that it's you care about them. You truly care about them. One, they'll play a little bit harder, but they also know that you're going to have their best interest when it's all said and done.
How important is that to team morale?
I think it's huge. I think that's a big part of it, because your leaders are the ones that set the tone. Hey, if you have guys that are wavering in your locker room, that those guys can say, hey, those guys upstairs, or the guys that are coaching us, they care about us. They know what they're doing, and we got to trust in that path that they're leading us through. Because if we do these things, that we'll have a chance to be successful.
I think there are some folks in Russellville who have either not necessarily paid close attention to Arkansas Tech football in a while, or maybe they're coming back to it with a new head coach. Tell them what they can expect coming up. We'll get more into the X's and O's later because I've got questions about that. But from a general sense, what can we expect coming into the next season?
Well, and as far as the next season goes, we're going to play hard every snap. That's something that is just an expectation. To me, Arkansas Tech football is built on a blue-collar work ethic. It always has been, and as long as I'm still here, it will always be. We're going to work hard. We're going to condition hard. We're going to be the best conditioned team on the field. And if we can limit mistakes and turnovers on a weekly basis, we'll have a chance. That was something that we had to fix when we got here. Running through a line correctly, not running to the line, but running through the line was something that I guess was foreign, and that we fixed, and our guys understand that. And there's still days we still have to correct it still.
Sure.
But they understand that that is a priority. But not just that, the way that we handle ourselves outside of the football, what we're doing in the community, those things are really, really important and are pillars of our program. The last 2 years, in 2019, we led the country in Division II football for community service. Last year, we were number 2, which people were like, well, that's great. Well, people are like, why are you upset about it? Well, I want to be one.
Because I want to be number one. Right?
If I'm going to do it, we're going to do it, and we're going to try to get number 1, period. And another school had a couple of weeks they were in school. They kind of knew the hours and jumped on us late and got us. So, but that is something that, we take very seriously. And I want our guys to understand that the community, if you do great things for them, it will come in return. They will show up to games. They will appreciate you. And then when you leave here, at some point, you're going to be a community member, whether it's in Russellville or your hometown or somewhere else around the country. And those things help as you grow, and when you have children, to be able to install those same things and values into them as well.
When you're talking about community service, your players are engaging, as you said, in a ton of it. What kinds of things are they engaging in?
It's tons. We got guys that are going to do High Five Fridays at the different schools. We have a pen pal with schools that where they, especially during COVID, that was a way for us to do stuff with kids. We had a pen pal writing that we'd send them letters, they would send us back. Guys were doing Zoom meetings where they were reading to classes during this time. We've done a lot with food pantries as well, with helping fill in different boxes and things of that nature. We try to do as much as we can with kids, just because, those guys, those young kids in this community and around, and really everywhere, they look up to these student athletes, and I want them to understand that these kids see them as somewhat of a superhero because of what they're doing.
Sure.
And if they see a kid that looks like them, maybe that's going to change their mind about going to college.
In comparison, you talk about what it does for the smaller kids, but what does it do for the athletes, the student athletes?
Oh, it does a ton for them too, I believe. I think they get to see kids in a different light. And, when you get to build a relationship with a younger kid, that does a lot as well. And,
right.
It helps them, I think, grow up and mature as well.
Talking to head football coach Kyle Shipp over at Arkansas Tech University. If you are in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call, 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. You can also catch all of these podcasts on wherever you listen to your podcast, Google Play, iTunes, or Spotify. And do not miss our radio show. It's 8:30 every Friday morning on KARV AM 610 and 93.1 FM. Coach, I am fascinated by the Great American Conference this year because top to bottom, I know that in coach speak, you never say, and you will never say ever, this sentence will never, there's never an easy game.
No.
I know you'll never say that.
Absolutely not.
But if you look at the conference top to bottom, I think that that's a legitimate statement from top down. This is a tough conference with a lot of parity.
It's an extremely tough conference. And having 11 straight weeks of conference games, people don't realize that we have that sometimes until they see a schedule and go, man, there's not a bye week. There's not a money game. There's not a game that you get an extra home game. It's 11 weeks, and you better be prepared every 11 weeks. And if you're not, you could easily lose a game. You got guys like Ouachita Baptist and Harding, who year in, year out have been one of the top two teams. And you got Henderson, who has been at different times in the top two, top one at one conference. Southern Arkansas in the past has had some good teams. I was in Monticello for 5 years, and we were able to change a lot of things there and get ourselves into that mix and go to a bowl game. And then you got the Oklahoma schools, who traditionally have been middle of the pack, but I think teams like East Central, they have a chance to be a very good team this year. Southeastern, I think, will be better. Oklahoma Baptist has, in the last 2 years, has made huge improvements. And then I'm sure Southwest and Northwest will be better as well, and Southern Nats. So every week you have to prepare yourself. There's not an easy game. And I'm hoping that teams look at us the same way.
Right. Every coach says, if we limit turnovers, if we limit mistakes and we play our game, then we're going to win. Every coach says that.
Yes.
But the approach is what's different in my mind. How do you approach that with your players and saying, hey, we've got to be the most disciplined team on the field, and here's how we're going to do it?
Well, some of the things that we do that we put in is we do turnover circuits on both sides of the ball, tackling circuits, to where some of those things you don't get to work on all the time in practice, but if you work on them enough, it becomes normal. Well, defensively, if we can, create turnovers and tackle really well, normally those things bode well for your defense. Same thing in offense. If you can hang on to the football and you score enough points, and those two things are going at the same time, you do. But, with those circuits and different scenarios that we put them in practice, whether it's red zone periods, whether it is a change of scenario where, hey, we just turn the ball over, defense, you're on the field, the ball's on the 10-yard line, you got to make a stop. Or it's in a special teams aspect. We got to block a kick here to win the game, for them to win it, or for us to make a kick for us to win it. So you've got to put your guys in different scenarios, so when you get to those scenarios in games, it's not a foreign thing to them. And then, the one thing that very first year I kept telling them, you have to practice a certain way. If you don't practice, don't expect to win. And for the first 5 to 6 weeks, we weren't doing that. And I would tell them every week, this isn't good enough.
Right.
Then finally it clicked, and the practices started getting better. And then we won, and everybody's like, huh. So if we do this, we'll win games.
Right.
And we ran off those 3, should have been 4 straight. And guys started getting that sense of, hey, if we do this, we'll have a chance to win every single week, but we have to do things just like this that we don't have NFL players.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do things like this. We can't take practices off. We can't take reps off. We have to go at it every day and be smart about it, but go at it and practice the right way on a daily basis.
I'm fascinated by the athletic department as a whole right now. We had Coach Downey on a few weeks ago. I'm trying to get Coach Wilbers on. And when you look at the fact that Abby Davis is still interim AD and Coach Calcaterra did a great job with national championship.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of coaches here who have longevity at the university, either by having attended here like you did, or
Yes.
Coach Downey, who led the men's basketball team to #1 in the country.
Oh, wow.
Now he's back, and that speaks to me, that tells me that the climate of the athletic department is one that's synergistic and has a has a goal in mind. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, absolutely. And you know the thing about coaches in sports is everyone's going to have each other's backs,
Right.
and that's the way it is in our department. Is even when COVID was going on, you know, we were always being very supportive of each other.
Sure.
You know, when someone wins, we have a group text, and it's like a party on that group text. You know, when Luke was going to win a national championship on that roll, it was every single day. You know, there was something positive being said. Same thing with the women's basketball team. Even when, you know, I'm sure Downey would tell you the same thing when they were having a rough season, and same thing with me.
Sure.
It was nothing but positive going on there, and we knew that those people that are head coaches and assistants in our programs we're all fighting the same direction, fighting the same battle, and we're in this together.
What are some of the things that you have learned from the other coaches, not just from the football standpoint, but I mean, are there things that you pick up from a Coach Wilbers or a Coach Davis or a Coach Downey that you can say, you know, I can use this in football?
Well, you know, I think you can always find something in every sport. You know, obviously with Coach Wilbers, he's, you know, will be in the Hall of Fame at some point. At Arkansas Tech is a winner, and to watch him how he interacts with his student athletes, I think he does a really good job of that. How he handles certain situations. I've sat down with him multiple times, and you know, I've gotten some good feedback from him. You know, seeing Coach Downey, you know, how much he's matured and grown. And I know he said in his interview, but his growth between when he was here the first time to right now, it's been really neat to see that as well. And even like a Coach Dawson, who they won conference in baseball.
Right. Outstanding man, too. Yes, just a good dude.
He's fun to be around, and seeing him how he does those things on a daily basis. And then one of the craziest ones we have is Brock Heim. He's our track coach. He's nuts, but he is so outside the box in what he does from a social media standpoint, what he does from a workout point, how he pushes his student athletes is very, very impressive, and I've gotten to know him very well as well.
There's a couple of other questions that I want to get to as it pertains to the athletic department. Then I want to talk a little bit about your background. But first, if you are in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a phone call today, 479-968-5668. One of our fine agents here at Alathus Realty will be proud to help you through that crazy market that's out there right now. So cruise on over right now to RussellvilleLiving.com. Also, make sure to tune in on Friday morning, AM 610 and 93.1 FM. That's KARV at 8:30. Chris George from Food on the Mountain, Danielle Hausnick from Main Street, Russellville. She will be talking about Downtown at Sundown. That's coming up this Saturday. You don't want to miss that. Starts at 7 o'clock. Daz and Bree and the band Synergy will be playing live downtown, so don't miss that. Of course, those interviews are on Carve Friday, 8:30. Easy for me to say, huh? I was fascinated by some of the conversation that I had with Coach Downey when we were talking about the peripheral of athletics, because so much when you talk to coaches, you're talking about the X's and O's, and you're talking about, you know, your coaching strategy, philosophy. You know, what are you telling your team in the locker room? And as a former sportscaster and going back into the play-by-play booth coming up this fall, you get into that rhythm of, okay, well, what are you talking about, or what kind of halftime adjustments? You talk about those things. But the peripheral is really important. The fan interaction. Guys like Pete Kelly and Sam Strasner. How important is the peripheral to your program?
You know, that's extremely important, and that's why the community service part of it is such a big deal, because like I tell the guys, hey, if you'll do these things for the community, they're going to show back up. Then you got your guys like, you know, Sam and Kelly.
He's a Hall of Famer too. I think they both are.
Oh yeah, they're awesome, and they do a great job. Sam does a fantastic job of telling stories and making us look better when we don't, and when we look bad, still making us look good on the radio. And trust me, I really do appreciate him doing that at times. And those things are really important from that side of things. Those people are huge parts of our program, and don't get probably enough recognition from us.
16 years ago, you and I were both students at Arkansas Tech University, and now we are in these places. So how do you go from 2005, 2006, being a student, going into GA? What path did you take going from there to now being the head Wonderboy?
Well, you know, as a kid, people had thought I was crazy then, but I was 13 when I decided I want to be a head college football coach. I for some reason, Houston Nutt was, he was hot at that time. He
Yeah.
just became, and I watched his press conference that day when he became the head coach, and something clicked, and I said, "That's what I want to do."
National championship under construction.
Yes, I
Yeah.
mean that his passion and everything he had was, that was something I saw, and I was like, man, that just looks like a blast to me. That's something that I want to do. And as I kept growing and being around different coaches, that helped a lot. Then when I got to college and being around different coaches, Steve Mullins being one of those, being extremely good to me as a walk-on and letting me walk on. I was
Right.
not a very good player, but he let me and ended up putting me on scholarship and then giving me the opportunity to be a graduate assistant for him. And that was a huge part of it. And I tell our GAs this day, you'll find out now in these next 2 years whether you want to do college or you might want to do high school, because college coaching is hard. The time constraints, the things that you give up that other people don't. Not saying that high school coaches don't give up a lot, because they do, and they work their butts off, and they're some of the best coaches in the country.
Unquestionably.
But they don't have to go to a lot of home visits and
Right.
things of that nature at night.
They should not be recruiting, although some of them are probably recruiting.
I'm sure it happens every once in a while.
Yeah, right.
And so that was a huge thing, having guys like that. And then, when I got done as my GA there, going to an Arkansas State, and again, learning a lot, because I thought I knew a lot, and you get to a level like Division I, and you learn you don't know anything comparative to what you thought you knew.
Who was your head coach at that point?
Steve Roberts, who,
Okay, yeah.
if anyone knows who Steve Roberts is probably, in my opinion, one of the best human beings as a head coach you could ever ask for.
He laid the foundation for Arkansas State, in my opinion.
Oh, there's no doubt. Was so lucky to be with him as my next head coach after Steve. And then, of course, I got to work with Coach Freeze for a year. And from Freeze's side, I got to learn some recruiting things from him, which he's one of the best I've ever been around from a recruiting standpoint. And then from an offensive standpoint, he's pretty special too. And I was lucky to be young and grow under guys like that I was able to develop myself as a young coach. And then, again, got to come back as a full-time coach at Tech at that point for Coach Mullins. And then went to Monticello for 5 years, and as a coordinator, then came back. And I was able to do all those things because of different head coaches and position coaches that were put in my life during those times. And when I needed to be straightened up, would straighten me up. And I needed it probably a lot, just like my young guys do now.
Sure.
They get from me. But that's my job, to help install it to those young coaches to, hey, this is how you got to do things. And if you do things, good things will happen.
Is that the most important non-football lesson you've learned from your coaches?
Yes, I think so. How you treat people, how you handle recruiting, will your kids buy into you? Those things, being able to watch those guys do that for those years, and then be able to put my own spin on it. But a lot of it's their stuff.
Right.
Because seeing it work for those guys has been huge influence for me.
We're talking to head football coach Kyle Shipp over at Arkansas Tech University. Once again, don't want to miss the Spotlight on Carve coming up this Friday morning. It's at 8:30. Of course, Danielle Hausnick, she's the executive director of Main Street Russellville. She will be joining us to talk about downtown at sundown. And then, of course, Chris George talking to us about Food on the Mound. It's a staple event here in the River Valley as it pertains to getting ready for back to school. There will be food that they will be distributing, school supplies, and, of course, if you've not yet received your COVID vaccine, you can get that there as well. And you can check that entire interview out coming up this Friday morning on KARV. All right, as we wrap up, Coach, a few things that I want to talk about in the upcoming season. I want to know a little bit about your coordinators. I want you to introduce a little bit your coordinators to our audience. What philosophy are we walking into this season with?
So, Coach Lawson, Josh Lawson, has been here with me the whole time. So, very similar to what they saw in 2019, but with a little extra. In 19 we had to be very base. We had a lot of new guys, playing, so we were very base what we did off from a defensive side of things. We're going to have some change ups. I know there'll be some other people watching this. I can't say a whole lot. I know the conference guys will be trying to find this off my Facebook or something like that.
Right,
but
of course.
There's going to be some differences that which you'll see from the 19 season. how we use packages and personnels, and some really things I'm excited about because me and Josh have got to sit down and talk about how, from an offensive person, how I look at it and how uh, he can use it from a defensive side of things and thinking kind of making a defensive person think from an offensive standpoint. And so he's taken that and ran with it, and I feel like we got some good things coming from the defensive side. Offensively, Ryan Trevathan's the offense coordinator. I'm still very heavily involved offensively, and so it will look very similar to what it looked like at the last half of the season, with some new stuff added in. Obviously, we got some new personnel that we've added to our roster, and guys that have either redshirted or played a little bit as a freshman that have now grown up a lot. That I feel like those guys are really going to be new faces that no one has seen, that have a chance to be really good players for us at pretty much every position. So I'm excited about, again, offensively, I think we have a chance to be pretty good. Again, take care of the football and do right in the red zone, and they'll have a chance to score some points.
Coach Downey mentioned this. I've said to him before, and I've heard this throughout my entire career, that the biggest improvement for any team, no matter what sport, is between year one and year two. That may be a little bit off-putting right now because we've had the COVID year. Do you still expect that same improvement?
I do. I truly do believe that. And I've told people, I say, the way we're looking at this last year, it was a redshirt year for our program. It was a way for us to grow up. And so guys, it's crazy to think this, but I have guys that are going to be redshirt freshmen that are going to be juniors in the classroom.
That's amazing to me.
I mean,
and that's across college football.
Yes, and it's not just us that have this same deal. It's going to be everybody in the conference here is going to have players that no one knows of that have, a red shirt or have been there 2 years, but they've developed, and that part's exciting for us because we know that because of the development that's happened in the last 2 years with certain guys, that they're going to make us a lot better football team.
Does that not create a new set of challenges, though, for your coaching staff? In that, okay, hey, we've got redshirt freshmen who are still juniors, but so does everybody else.
Yes.
I mean, there's a whole lot of experience coming back to the GAC that you may not even know is there. Yes. How do you approach it?
You just guess. At this point, you look at rosters and hopefully you say, well, maybe that person's new or that person's not. You just basically wait till you play. And then you start getting the video on different teams and saying, all right, well, this is a new person, this is a new person, or this person played a lot in 19, or this person transferred in. And right now it's kind of a lot of guessing until you get on the field and play the first game. And that's the best way you can kind of look at it.
I want to wrap up with this question. Having been here at Arkansas Tech for a lot of your life, getting to come back as coordinator, having graduated from here, can you describe the moment that you found out you were the next head coach?
Well, yeah, I can. It was, 10 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, and I walked into Coach Mullen's office, and he closed the door behind me. And there were some talks before this, but he closed the door behind me, and he said, well, you're the new head coach. And I was in shock, basically, and I was like, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? And he said, no, you're the head coach. Do you want it? And well, yes. And he shook my hand and gave me a hug, and it was as surreal as it gets. I remember leaving that, and I could tell my wife, and I called her, and she couldn't believe it either. And it was just a very, very special moment for me because Arkansas Tech had been so special to me for so long and still is. And so that was a huge moment in my life that I knew that I've been working to try to get to that point in my life, and that it was there, and I finally received that opportunity. It was just very, very special time. Very special.
We're wrapping up with head coach Kyle Shipp. I would be remiss if we didn't give at least one shout out in this interview, because I know he's watching. What can you say about Joey Potts?
Well, Joey Potts, man, what can you say about Joey?
And this is a family-friendly show.
Exactly. No, Joey is and probably he was still this day. I don't think there will ever be another Arkansas Tech fan like Joey Potts. Nope. I would love for there to be another one for me personally. He was so much fun to go to school with. I talk to him still all the time. I'm in a group text with him. He's one of my best friends. But he's a special guy in so many ways. And
we got to get him down here.
oh, he would be awesome.
The stories that he could tell.
He would have tons of stories.
Oh my gosh,
some great ones. He is the best, and we love him. And he'll be at football games this fall. He'll be sitting there in the end zone. He won't be as rowdy as he used to be.
As crazy as he used to be, I'm sure. Off air, I'll have to tell you about the time an Arkansas Traveler nearly destroyed him.
I could see that. I remember the basketball game where a basketball player almost came in the stands after him.
Yeah. And that's when you know you're doing a good job.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Coach Shipp, can we do this again?
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for coming on the spotlight with us, and good luck this season.
I got one thing.
Please.
We do have and this is more from a prayer side of things. We have a young man on our football team named Jesse Boshears, who is in the ICU with COVID. He was put in into the hospital in late June when he contracted COVID. He is not doing great, but he's still fighting, and would love his parents would appreciate any prayers. There's a lot of people in this community know about it. Jesse's a wonderful young man, great family, and if you get a chance to give a prayer to Jesse, please do that, because he's a wonderful young man.
Prayers for Jesse on his recovery for COVID, the entire football team. It's a very real situation, folks. It's a very real situation. Coach Shipp will obviously be doing that for you and for his game.
That.
And we're wishing you the best of luck this year. It's time to reclaim that green and gold glory.
That's right. I can't wait.
All right. Fight on, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Spotlight today. Coming up later on this week, on Friday, don't miss it, Chris George, that's his name, Chris George and Danielle Hausnick are joining us for Carve Spotlight on 8:30 on Friday morning. That's AM 610 and 93.1 FM. My thanks to Coach Kyle Shipp. My thanks to you for joining us today on the Spotlight. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.